So welcome to Politics Inc. Today I have Clay Jones, a self-syndicated political cartoonist whose work has been distributed to newspapers and outlets across the U.S. and the world. He's worked as an editorial cartoonist since 1990. He's been on staff at the Daily Leader in Brookhaven, Mississippi, the Honolulu Star Bulletin, and the Freelance Star in Fredericksburg, Virginia, where he now lives. He draws a weekly cartoon for the CNN's Opinion Weekly newsletter. He's won Best Cartoon from the National Newspaper Association, and he was a national finalist for the prestigious Herb Block Award. He's also written a book called Tales from the Trumpster Fire. You'll see where this interview's going. And I see him personally as one of the hardest working editorial cartoonists in the business, giving James Brown a run for his money. But please welcome Mr. Clay Jones. Clay, look at all you've done. Look at all you've done. Want to jump into it? I know you have a deep history here in this business since 1990. You've seen and been around so many other political cartoonists. I know you're really active in the different events and trade shows that come up for editorial and political cartoonists. What do you think makes a great political cartoonist?
Someone who's angry, someone who's pissed off, someone who wants to make the world a better place, and who is also a little bit, to be a great cartoonist, I think to be a political cartoonist, you have to be kind of weird, really, really weird. And you have to have an imagination, be irreverent, have to not be afraid to say things that people don't want to hear, even if it might, well, sometimes you got to say damn the torpedoes. But you just got, and also you have to be the kind of person who's willing to choose a career that doesn't really pay you a lot. You have to be willing to eat a lot of ramen sometimes, especially after you get laid off and you self-syndicate, for a decade. So
yeah.
Yes, yeah.
No, it's a great thing, because I do feel like you kind of hit all the ingredients that I've seen is suffer for your art, good, bad, or indifferent. But having that, I guess, I don't want to call it a cynical nature, but to see things and see the kind of theater that politics is, and have a point of view and put yourself out there to make fun of or see it from a different light. And I feel like what we do as political cartoonists, it's a rare thing, because not many people have the format to do it, and those stages to do it are becoming fewer and fewer. So again, you being self-syndicated, it is I find, an interesting platform for you, because you have to work on your own brand to get your own brand, your own name, and your own format out there, as opposed to leaning on a newspaper. How has that been, going and being self-syndicated?
Well, it's a lot of work, and you have to figure things out. You have to figure out, first off, how to contact newspapers, how to talk to them, how to pitch. Because back in the day, we would draw cartoons and go on with our life until the next cartoon. We didn't have to worry about anything. We just send the cartoon to either put it on the page, or you send it to your syndicate, and then la-di-da, you go off and watch a TV show and go to sporting events, hang out with friends, or just have a life. I don't have a life. This is my life pretty much. I don't think I've been outside since Monday, other than taking out garbage and stuff. I work a lot. The things about self-syndicating, and I was with Creator Syndicate for about 12, 13 years. I got with them in 1990, and when I lost my job at the Freelance Star, when I was laid off, and they got me in the third round, I thought, I'm not making a lot of money with my syndication, and that's not a diss on Creators. If I was with anyone else, I wouldn't have been making a lot of money. Creators was good to me. And I found an out in my contract, a clause that said I could go. And I just told them, hey guys, I'm leaving. And I started my own syndicate, because I thought I could probably support myself, barely on self-syndicating. Let's see how this goes. And at the time, I was really, really, I'm still poor, but I was I didn't have internet. I was that poor. And I was at McDonald's every day for a couple of months. I get a Coke, whatever, and I was using their Wi-Fi to look up every contact in the country for newspaper editors. If you want to contact at a newspaper, I got them. A lot of work. The people at McDonald's got to know me even. They'd bring me a free burger every now and then. Hey, how's it doing? Hey, you got an extra burger? And yeah, I'll take it. Yeah, but it takes a lot of work. You have to pitch, and you have to pitch. You can't pitch too much, and you can't pitch too little because and you got to bill invoice, and it's just a lot of work. The one thing though is that, like you were talking about sacrificing for your art, is that if I did a lot of cartoons that were just about weather and rain, rain is weather, but just like a lot
Yeah.
of easy stuff,
Yeah.
I would have a lot more clients. But I've literally had editors tell me I can't run your cartoons because this one's too mean, or you draw too many cartoons on Donald Trump, or even Republicans. You just criticize these people, and we can't have that. Or we can't have opinions in our opinion page anymore. And the other thing about self-syndicating is that you have to compete against other syndicates who offer, say, I'm offering myself. If you go against like Blah Blah Syndicate, they're offering like 20 to 30 cartoonists, maybe not that many. But when an editor subscribes to them, they're subscribing to the entire package. Maybe they I'm sure they get their favorites in it. But when an editor subscribes to me, they're subscribing for me. And I do have clients that subscribe to other syndicates and stuff, and I have some that subscribe only to myself. And I share a lot of pages with Tom Tomorrow and Alt Weeklies, and because it's kind of funny because I did have like 4 or 5, and it was almost the same layout. It was me and Tom, and I loved it because that's good company. I think it's like 3 that I have with Tom Tomorrow, and that's pretty cool.
That's great. No, and I think what you've done that I find so interesting, fascinating, is you haven't just said, well, here's this cartoon on this subject. You dig in deep. For those who don't know, haven't been to your website, you actually went down to the indictment trial in Florida and in New York, interviewing people. And I think the behind the scenes, it's almost reminded me a little bit of like a Ralph Steadman and going and then kind of investigated journalism. But you got down there, you met the people, and it wasn't solely to be making fun of or showing off, your side only. You talked and interviewed and met with different people from both sides, which again, I find if you were tied to a syndicate, that might be a little harder, or if you were tied to a paper, that would be harder. But I think the freedom and kind of the world you've built for yourself of, you do animation, you do a daily, you do these kind of hidden sketchbooks in Miami or in New York. I think those things that you've done show, I think, the power of an individual over the power of a syndicate and the power of a newspaper.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the thing. I do have a lot of freedom. And I'll say 2 things about that. One, with going to the arraignments, I went to all 4. And that wasn't the plan at the start. I went to New York, and it was, of course, spur of the moment. I'm going to New York, going to watch Donald Trump get arrested. And I've been to New York several times before, so I know the city a little bit or well enough. And that was just fun. And then after that, I thought I should go to all of them. Wouldn't that be funny? And so let me give a shout out to everybody who donated money to help me do this. I didn't ask anybody to help me with New York. And after that, I thought, I'm going to start asking, just put out a pitch. If you want to help me do this. And Miami, I probably broke even. The other ones, it came close. But I went to Miami, Atlanta, and Washington. And some of the syndicates came out, like myself, and from the other side. And I did interview people on my phone, and I wasn't trying to make fun of people. And I also didn't want to debate, because if you debate like Michael the Black Man, you might be there for an hour. I just really wanted to get their viewpoints and kind of show the crazy. And I like to do it again. I might go to some trials, maybe, especially up here in DC. But the other thing is that I forgot what the point was. You said one other thing, and I was kind of like commenting.
No, it's okay. I think the idea that you're doing that, and again, I found the beauty of it was it'd be easy to pull like the Daily Show move of interviewing or making fun of, making fun of all of them, and then shaping and shifting it to make you look like the good guy. And again, your Trump cartoons speak for themselves, and I think that's the beauty. But the fact that I think is getting lost this year, and I think in the last since 2016 is, we're so polarizing. No one wants to have those conversations to quote unquote meet in the middle, even during good times, bad times, whatever side you're on. But the fact that you did that and still had conversations with people, I thought was pretty admirable.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and the fact that people helped you. So yes, hats
Yeah.
off to all the people who helped fund
Yeah.
that. Because
Everybody
again,
spent $10 to $50, how much. Some people did it for more than one trip, and I do appreciate all that. And I'll probably be asking for some help again in the near future. So, trials ever start,
I know. It's just like it's like a weekly circus. It's like, what town is it in today? So,
Or when's it going to start? Which
yeah,
delay, which excuse are you using
yeah.
this time for this one?
The third wife's mother's funeral or whatever. It just seems like, yes, it just keeps
That was one
going
of
on
them.
and on. That was one of them. Yeah, I wish I was making that up, but yeah, that was actually one of them.
That's one other thing with the whole Trump thing. It's really hard to make stuff up to make fun of. It's really hard to satirize when life becomes satire, and that's the whole thing with the whole Trump era.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree, and it actually was leading into a question here that I saw that shift kind of happen. You've been a part of political change from the highest office here in the country for, I think it's maybe 6 administrations. But the one thing I felt like happened in 2016 was it became so hard. I saw SNL change where it was like, what he's doing on between Monday through Friday is funnier than what you guys are doing on Saturday night, between 10 and midnight. It just felt like there was a shift where it was so hard and yet so easy, but it felt like, I hate to use the word Teflon. The jokes he was giving everyone were just like softballs. And it was like, how do you make fun of what he's doing even more than what he's doing himself? So I would just love to get your perspective of 6 administrations. What made the Trump administration in 2016 so different for you as a cartoonist, looking at it, observing it, and then trying to find that inroad of how do I make fun of something that's already so crazy and so out there?
Well, we can start with the caricature. When we've drawn Donald Trump before 2016, here and there, he'd be in the news. I remember in the 90s when he went through one of his bankruptcies, people had a week of Trump cartoons and stuff. And we didn't really know Trump then, but we didn't pay enough attention. But after 2016 and you went back to look at everything he had even done in the 80s and 70s, you realize, oh, this guy's a longtime racist. We always knew he's a braggart and boast about stuff, but we probably didn't ever really understand just how deep his stupidity went and his selfishness, and obnoxious arrogance, like how much of a carnival barker he is. The thing that really made it harder to draw Trump is that so many people just let him get away with everything. I mean, people would accuse Obama of not respecting the troops enough and say that he's on an apology tour for the United States, while Trump's motto literally says America's not great. Yeah. Donald Trump attacks prisoners of war, says they're not heroes for being captured, but he gets away with that. For some reason, he just gets carte blanche to just be the biggest asshole in the world. Can we curse? I'm sorry.
We can curse. We can totally curse.
But so the thing is like it's really hard to make fun of somebody whenever it's already a joke out there, and people don't know it's a joke. They're eating it up and they think it's reality. But now our reality has become this joke. How do you satirize, reality when it becomes satire? And when I started to draw Trump after he came down that golden escalator to say racist comments, a couple of readers were like, "You got to do better with his hair, and you got to do this and that." And I thought it's really hard to draw a caricature of someone who's already a caricature. And so I created this stupid, ridiculous-looking thing. Weird orange blob of a clown, and it adjusted over time. Actually, over the last 8 years, it has changed a little bit over time. That lips have changed, this or that. But people would tell me sometimes, especially, well, really only right wingers tell me, they're like, that doesn't look like Trump at all. And I'm like, but you knew it was Trump, because the thing is with caricatures, you don't actually have to make it look like the person. You have to really capture the personality as much as you need to capture the physical part of it. That's my Donald Trump. My Donald Trump is a caricature of a caricature. Well, a caricature, except it's off a real person.
Yeah, no, and I think that's what the beauty of your style is it's very loose. I know you're inspired by Mad magazines such as myself.
I'm very sloppy.
Yeah, but you get the essence, and I think, it kind of goes without saying, but your Trump, I mean, it's a giant, I'll put it in the show notes. Again, it's the orange face, but then you have this beautiful kind of like pink circle where his mouth is in the center. And it almost reminds me of a clown costume or, the theatrics of what he's doing. And it is the shorthand that you get of a character, because I think that's the beauty of each cartoonist has their own style, where it could look like a Mike Lukovich, where he'll get in with his pen and get the detail and like the little wrinkles and drop shadows.
And they're so good. Caricatures.
Yeah.
I saw him in Atlanta, and I told him that. I was like, your caricatures, they've always been good, but just lately they're just getting better and better and better.
Yeah.
I am so jealous of the way that he can capture.
Oh, me too. And I've seen his cartoons, and we could diatribe on it, where he'll sit there and just look at a photo, and he'll draw it with just a black pen and just do it all by hand and white out. He still uses white out. God love him. But I'm like that's a whole lost art within itself. But again, I think the fact that Trump has become, to your point, such a caricature, the fact that you went all in on doubling down on the caricature of the caricature, I think makes it just, again, a simple read for people of, oh yeah, this guy literally is acting like a clown. And I think you did a great job of bringing and extracting that carny aspect of him and what he's doing out in your work. So
I think what I realized in 2016 was that I'm going to draw a bad caricature of this guy. I'm just not really going to be able to nail him like the way Lukovich does.
Yeah.
So I can just create my own cartoon character out of it instead of drawing a bad caricature. So that's the route I went.
No, that's great. That's great. Well, I guess going back to, you've worked in-house for 3 or 4 different newspapers over your career. You're self-syndicated. What are the things that you miss about working in-house in the walls of a newspaper? You've talked about in Honolulu, you've worked under some heavy hitters out there from a cartoonist standpoint, other newspapers within the building. What do you miss about that? And then what do you love about the freedom you have now?
The one thing that I really miss is just being in a room full of sarcastic assholes. That was just a lot of fun. And someone once complained, like my editor at the Freelance Star, he tried to remove somebody from our office who said who dropped an F-bomb once. And I was like, have you been to the newsroom? Really, you're cursing at a newspaper? You're upset about someone cursing at a newspaper? Go downstairs. In Hawaii, it was very loose. It was crazy. And I did 2 cartoons a day in Hawaii. One was for the front page and one was for the editorial page. And you just had a lot of, the people there you talk about us being cynical. Everybody there was cynical. In the newspaper, everybody outside the newspaper is all sunny and stuff and more positive. But they were not afraid to, at the Star Bulletin in Honolulu, they were not afraid of upsetting people with stories and such. And our competition across the hall was a Gannett paper. And you know how Gannett is.
Yeah.
We were like a real newspaper. Gannett was Gannett. And
kid gloves.
The one daily I worked for, Mississippi, I only worked there for 8 months. I got fired after 8 months because look at me. And but I worked for Weekly for 5 years before that, where I did like a dozen things on staff, including cartoons. But then after I got to Fredericksburg, I enjoyed the staff. I enjoyed the staff downstairs. I didn't enjoy the editorial page staff as much. I had a very difficult relationship with my editor for 14 years. It was very difficult. But the people downstairs, I thought we had the best photographers in the world, and we had some great reporters, great editors. 2 of the editors at the Freelance Star, Hillary and Laura, are still proofreading my cartoons.
Oh, that's great.
On a volunteer basis, and I thank them so much. So there's a lot of great people there. The one thing I don't miss that I love about the freedom is that nobody can make me draw a cartoon about sunshine or flowers are coming up, whatever. Someone asked me to draw a local cartoon last week, and they threw the story at me about this local initiative about planting more tulips in town. And I was like, nope. I didn't even walk around. Well, I don't know. Let me. No, I just immediately said no. I had this rule that I created when I left my newspaper. It's like I spent 14 years of people telling me what I have to do, can't do. And CNN tells me what I can and can't do because they're a client, they commission. But with my self-syndication and stuff like that, and if I don't want to do a commission job, I won't do it. But my rule was I'm not drawing cartoons I don't want to draw. I want to draw stuff.
Yeah, you could say it. You could say it. Yeah.
But my rule is I'm not going to draw wimpy, weak cartoons or stuff they don't care about. And the thing that really gets me is that a lot of guys after they lost their job, they kept doing that. And I understand that you do it because you'll get published, you'll be reprinted and everything. But I thought if I don't have to do that anymore, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to draw good cartoons. I want to be irreverent. I want to be weird. I want to be crazy. And I don't want to like water my cartoons down so much. And sometimes with commission stuff, you do water this or that down because editors aren't as crazy as cartoonists. And we're lunatics. And I get that. But you asked me on a day when I actually had to make a few changes.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I'm not going to say who it is, but I was like, but from the changes, there's 3 changes, and the first one is like, yeah, I understand. I was kind of expecting that one because I put something crazy in there, and then with the second, like, oh, and then the third one, I was just like, I just lost all enthusiasm for this cartoon because you did everything in the world to make it less funny. Yeah. So I have that sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
But I guess. See, I can get away from your question sometimes, but the thing I miss about the paper are the people. I miss paychecks and health plans and 401ks, but I miss most of the people. But I really love the freedom that I have now. No. I love the freedom to do whatever I want, which is why I think my cartoons now are a lot better than they were when I worked in the newspaper. I never won a national award when I was on staff of the newspaper, and since I've left, I won the RFK award and the award from the Society of Professional Journalists, and Sam name dropping now.
Drop away.
I was finalist for another one, and I never got that kind of stuff when I was on the staff of a paper because people were holding me back. And the only person that really holds me back most of the time now is myself. And you got to know when to hold yourself back a bit. I mean, you can't draw. Ask Wiley Miller. You can't put a penis in a cartoon or. No, he didn't do that. He put an F-bomb in a cartoon, I think. But you can't really do that. At the Freelance Star, I swear to God, my editor every day looked at my work because he just had this fear that I was going to do something like that, like hide a penis or
subliminal messaging.
I commit career suicide one day because he'd piss me off. But that's pretty much what they expect it, kind of. So it's over everything. And then I actually saw somebody do it one day.
No, I think that's admirable because to me, when you left the Freelance Star, it's kind of you burn the ships of great. I'm going to forge my own path and do, it's all on me now to make or break this career. And again, it's admirable that you went all in on it. So again, I love the fact that you don't self-edit. And I guess for people who don't know the process, normally as a cartoonist, you draw, you share with your staff, editor, and then he or she will look at it and say, well, what about this? What about that? Give you some advice. You can sometimes take it or sometimes you have to change it. But it sounds like for 14 years, you were kind of shackled by getting that's a little too far. Bring it back.
A lot. My editor used to get mad at me for showing him some ideas. Why would you show me this? Oh my God, it's so horrible. And I'm like, I'm not supposed to even show you ideas and stuff. Today, I mean, there is self-editing and stuff. But like you said, at newspaper, you show the stuff to editors. And I showed for my last commission, I bounced ideas off the editors. Which one do you want? What do you like? Don't like any of these? I write more. But now for myself, my syndication, I will bounce off a friend every now and then, maybe another cartoonist, maybe a reader whose viewpoints I think is crazy enough, but who still might say, oh my God, you can't do that. And the 2 ladies who proof for me, I might bounce things off them every now and then. Sometimes when they're proofing it, one of them will say, oh my God, I don't know.
Yeah. But that gives you the flavor of like, hey, I'm onto something. If this is like the gut reaction I'm getting from someone close to me, it's good evidence.
Sometimes, sometimes, but you always listen to it, even if you disagree. I think, especially with people that you respect, the people that I do talk to are people I respect. And like one friend, I'm going to name drop, is Chris Britt. I will show him an idea every now and then. And if you look at Chris Britt's cartoons, you're like, this guy would probably say yes to everything. Nothing would scare him. So if I show him something and Chris goes, "Oh my God, dude, I don't know," then I think, "Oh shit, I can get in trouble with this cartoon," because Chris is like me, he's crazy. So if you look at his cartoons, there's lots of blood and stuff in his cartoons. He's not afraid. This guy, he's all balls out. You know, he's he's bold. So if I scare Chris, and I think I've done that once, I don't show him. I don't show other cartoons everything I'm doing, because sometimes you don't really want any reactions until the readers get it.
Yeah.
And I've noticed before, if I show a cartoon to 3 or 4 people, then I get 3 or 4 different responses, and then it just makes me even more confused about the cartoon. So
yeah, and like what you should do. No, could you take me through your process then? Because I think what I always love, and again, having a deadline is a good thing. For people who don't know, the idea of a deadline came from, I think it was the Civil War. The South ran out of fences, so they put a line in the sand, and if you crossed that line, that was the deadline.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I heard that years ago at an ad agency. They had it in their book of how to function and how deadlines are really.
So those were literal deadlines.
Those were deadlines.
Yeah.
But I've always remembered that as like a reminder to me of getting it done, and having a deadline is actually a good thing from a creative standpoint, because you know, it's I don't know, in the world where we can be distracted by so many things, it's nice to sit down and go, great, here's my goal, there's the finish line, I have to get it done by then. So could you take me through your process, especially being self-syndicated? What is your routine? What are the habits? What are the systems you've kind of put in place for yourself to get those deadlines or to get the work out on a daily basis?
Well, we're self-syndicated. It's a self-imposed deadline. And my imposed deadline is 5 p.m. Eastern time. I love it when I finish a cartoon at 8 or 9 a.m. Then I have the rest of the day to either just blow off or actually just watch news all day, which is what you need to do. But my self-imposed deadline is 5 p.m. and I'm normally done way before that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think about all my clients on the East Coast, where they like to get this, and everybody on the rest of the country, well, they're way before 5 p.m. So this is hard. But I wake up, I try to write the idea before I go to bed. I try to wake up with the idea. That's not every day. Sometimes I have several ideas, and I'm trying to pick. This might be when you bounce them off people, or you think, which one should I do first, or which one's more timelier, which one's better? What did I do yesterday? Should I do like 2 Trumps in a row? It just dumb things like that.
Yeah.
But I start with the coffee. The coffee's prepped the night before. Coffee's a big part of it. I might drink 2 cups. I might drink the whole pot, depending on how I'm going. Right now, there's half a pot that's cold. That's done for the day. But because I drew a cartoon this morning, and I fire up the iPad and open up Procreate and dive in, and then I procrastinate throughout drawing the cartoon. I will stop 40, 50 times to something on TV or go down a rabbit hole on the internet or something else pops up. And sometimes whenever I'm almost done with the cartoon, something happens or I just get another idea, and it's like I'm throwing that away and I'm starting all over again. And then I'm racing. So the process can change. It can just get real crazy depending on what else comes up and stuff. So.
Oh, that's great. Now, I know you're also pretty involved with other cartoonists. What are the traits you see in a lot of them when you go to shows, when you meet them? You get coffee. I know you said you had ice cream. You went out to ice cream with.
I'm an ice cream.
with a couple of cartoonists at a show a few years back. What is that kind of common thread? For me, working solo, I never get, and I haven't really been as involved in the world of political cartoons or cartoonists as you have. So what is that world like when you sit with other cartoonists? What are the things they're talking about? What are the kind of, I'll call it traits you see in them that make them good? But then what are those kind of conversations, and how do they go when you guys get together?
We used to complain about editors when we had them, when we all had jobs.
Wasn't that a good thing one good thing to complain about is I have a boss.
Well, it's somebody that you can vent to. And so you go to the convention and you find out, you don't have an idea, then your idea is at 5 p.m. So then you just draw a balloon with it being pricked or something like that because you just something going on, you just fall on the cliche. We'd have conversations like that. The one common trait about cartoonists at a convention, and every cartoonist will tell you this is true, drinking. You go to a convention, you're going to drink some beer. So that's, but they're not a bunch of alcoholics. I bet at home they don't drink. I don't drink that much, at home. But when I go to a convention, I'm like, better like get ready to deliver, But the weird thing is that the last two conventions, I didn't really drink that much, but maybe we're all
Yeah.
just getting older, so we don't do it like we used to. Um, but there's not a lot of arguments. Most people get along. Back in the day, I'm gonna say back in the day a lot. Like when I started in the '90s, you would sit down and have a conversation with the cartoonist from like Oklahoma City, super conservative, and or you'd sit down like between a Ramirez and a Steve Sack, two very opposing ends, have a great conversation. No, people didn't hate each other. We didn't throw things. We didn't beat each other with mallets. We got along very, very well. I remember just some cartoonists being best of friends and I had really good friends who were conservative, and now I don't even talk to those people anymore because Trump pretty much ruined all that. The last convention I went to, I only saw one conservative. I might have been one guy who was like moderate, but most of these there have been liberal. It's like all the conservatives have left the association I'm in. And even like after before I lost my job, but until like last year, I went to the convention in Columbus. That was my first convention in over a decade. I just hadn't been out at all around. But then I was able to, and I really liked it. It was good to see guys again, old friends I hadn't seen in over a decade. But the common traits, I guess, they're not all like me. I'm not going to say I'm a great example of what you find with the cartoonists. I think they're all smart. I tell you that. Well, the liberal ones anyway. They're smart. They're educated. They know what they're talking about. They have great news sense. They have good judgment of the issues. And most of the guys that I talk to that I'm really good friends with, and one reason I'm friends with them is because I respect them, I respect their work, but I find them to be some of the most original people who don't want to always just settle for a cliche or just the most basic ideas. They work really hard at what they do. They care about the issues. You look at someone like Rob Rogers, for example, who refused to stop. His editor told him to stop drawing Trump, and he kept doing his job until they fired him, and then they replaced him with the guy who cooperated with all that. So there's a difference. Like Rob Rogers, he's a great example. Very ethical. In his work, had principles, and you know what? He never badmouthed anybody about that kind of stuff. I would have badmouthed anybody. I never heard say anything negative about the guy who replaced him, who used to be your friend. And then just the whole Trump thing. But yeah, educated, passionate, and funny. You talk to a cartoonist. A lot of cartoonists you talk to is like, and I say this about myself, I'm funnier on paper than I am in person, and a lot of cartoonists are like that. But when you go to a convention, we usually find each other funny and stuff like that. The one difference between me and other cartoonists I have discovered at every convention is that I am less patient, because see, like a panel or a seminar, and I'm like that 8-year-old at the grocery store. I'm getting fidgety. I want to go do something else. It's like I'm just sitting in my seat, and can we go now? And everybody else is like, oh,
this is fascinating. Yeah.
The difference between me and other cartoonists is like I can't sit still. Even though I have been out of my class, I still can't sit still. Just so.
No, I think it's great because I've only ran into a handful one-on-one in my time, and I haven't been a part of those associations. So I think it just gives a good glimpse into it, because you said something really interesting too, is understanding the issue. And I think sometimes it's easy to be, I'm going to jump all over this issue because it's so easy. But I think being smart and seeing it from different angles and then finding your own point of view, that's what makes it tough some days, is looking at it from all sides, but then having a strong point of view of why you believe what you believe and how you put that on paper.
Yeah, the one thing about Trump, a lot of people say, well, you guys have it so easy with Trump because he just like throws all these softballs at you. And that actually can be hard. Because it's like, I'm going to go for the most obvious thing that he just threw at me, and then you'll see like 6 or 7 of those ideas the next day. So you kind of challenge yourself to something beyond that, which is where the whole weirdness thing comes in. Like today I drew Mike Johnson as a male. And usually when I do stuff like that, I'm pretty confident nobody else is going to do what I'm doing.
No.
So that's the weird stuff that I like to do. The other thing, when I just said, like, people think Trump makes things easier, it actually makes it harder for business, because papers would rather just not see anything at all. And when I was sitting newspapers that told me that they don't want to run my Trump cartoons, it's not because they don't like cartoons that criticize Trump. They don't want any cartoons on Trump. They don't want the ones that like Trump. The biggest thing about newspapers now, you talk about the industry changing and us dying, being the canaries in the coal mine and being dinosaurs soon, is that newspapers don't want to offend anybody. Back in the day, they used to, if you're going to cartoonist, you're going to say back in the day a lot. When we talk about how the industry used to be. But they don't want to offend anybody. They're scared of everybody. The Freelance Star, like in my final year or so, we were doing a caption contest. And I really hated the caption contest. Walt Handelsman still does one for his paper, but readers love it. That's the thing. Readers,
they get involved, and
I hate it. So you know what I did? I would use cliches for the caption contest. I'd like have somebody going over a cliff, or the balloons, or the mazes, or the picking chips, and put somebody in a speech balloon. I didn't really have to think about it, and that was the cool thing. It could be easy, put some artwork into it, let the readers have fun with it. And I did that one day with Sarah Palin and her daughter when she was in the news for something, and people complained. Actually, just one person complained. They called the editor and they said, "How dare you pick on Sarah Palin like this?" And the editor came to me and said, "We might have to get rid of the caption contest because somebody's upset." I'm like, "One person is upset, and we haven't even put words in it yet, and you want to kill it? Can I at least give them something to be pissed off about before we?" And but that's an example of how newspapers are. They're so afraid. You don't even have to know what they're afraid about. You know, why are you upset? We'll get rid of it. You know, we don't care how crazy you are. We don't care how pointless your drivel is. If you're angry, we will do whatever we can not to lose your subscription. Well, you're not even a subscriber. You know, fine, we'll get rid of this feature anyway. It was stupid.
No, but you're right. Growing up here in Denver, it was the Rocky Mountain News and the Denver Post.
And you guys were lucky to have two papers like that.
Yeah, we were not a big market town, but to have two papers for as long as we did was a big deal. And to see the demise of it, and then when every paper in the world was just giving content away for free, when it went from the actual paper to being online, you realize, oh yeah, people just siphon what they want. They feel at liberty to make any kind of comment they want because there's no accountability. So they could be mad with the editorial writers, they could be mad with the cartoonists, and they could get their venom out in the comment section. And again, when you're switching over to a paid model now, you have to be cautious from like an owner of a newspaper or a conglomerate of a newspaper. But I agree. I think that has been it's been, and that's why, again, the work you've done and the prolific amount of thinking and execution and everything you've done over the years, it's actually proven that it works from a model standpoint of self-syndicating. You have the liberty. You can say what you want, and be damned if you don't like it. Editorial person or whatever newspaper wants to pick it up or doesn't. But then you see I don't know how much weight you put in the Pulitzers or the awards, but you see that there is still value of getting a voice heard in this business that I think has been lost over the last decade or so. Of where are the true people with the kind of pitchfork and torch making a big stink about what's going on in the world.
Now they're all online, the people with the torches and the pitchforks and stuff. And it's gotten meaner. We always made people angry. I like one time at the Freelance Star, this guy called me and he's upset. And I was, at this point, I had a cubicle in the newsroom. I went from having an office to a cubicle. And then after I got the cubicle, I loved it actually because I had more involvement with people. But this guy calls me and he's upset, but he's angry, but he's not hating me. He doesn't like the cartoon. And I talked to him for a few minutes, and then we hang up. And then the guy's like, "I forgot what I was mad about." And then that's not like everybody, but someone in the newsroom heard the conversation. She's like, "How did you do that? You just talked the guy out of his anger?" I was like, "Hey, he just wanted to talk. He just had to yell at somebody." But he didn't threaten my life. He didn't say, "I'm trying to find out where you live. I'm gonna dox you." None of that kind of stuff. Now online people are doing that. Someone like a year ago on some Facebook forum underneath my cartoon, or they put on some right-wing page or something, and underneath the cartoon they posted a photo of like my front door, saying this is where the guy lives. Fortunately, it was someplace I had lived like 15 years ago or something.
Oh my gosh!
But they're trying. You just got, and I'm not the most sought after lunatic that they're after. But just that if it come after a small fry like me, I mean, what are they going to do with other people? So just you got a lot of mean people out there. No
Yeah.
one in this no cartoonist in this country or in Canada, I should add, has had anyone attempt to kill them, or we get threats. But we didn't get that so much back then. You'd get some death wishes. To me, there's a difference between a death wish, like I hope you die, I hope a truck runs you over, to I'm coming to your house to slit your throat.
Yeah. And here's your address, and here's your photo.
Wish. Most of my career, I've gotten death wishes, and I don't put a lot of stock into them. And I've only gotten like a few death threats. And even those, they were just like, so, I mean, you should be afraid if they're crazier, but I just thought there's just like empty rhetoric, just when people saying that for the most part, or usually just get other people riled up online stuff. So it's just gotten a lot meaner.
Yeah. No.
And gave them permission to be meaner because their whole political stance is to be as vile as possible. Like I know these two brothers who are cartoonists, and sometimes I think that they're in a contest to see who can be the biggest dick. And their whole base of humor is to be as mean and vile and evil as possible, and they think that's hilarious. When Nancy Pelosi's husband was attacked with a hammer, the hammer jokes came flying out for those people. Like, it was like Donald Trump Jr. putting out memes and everything, but thinking it's hilarious that someone broke into a house and attacked an old man with a hammer. And when cartoonists thought it was hilarious. It's just gotten meaner out there.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think it goes back to what you said earlier. There's a difference between the easy joke, which is vile, mean, and again, that kind of Trump or far right-wing MAGA thinking, and being smart and being considerate, or finding a new way in that hasn't been done before, or isn't that easy target, or isn't that easy joke. And I think, again, that's what I feel like has been missing. You've got one thing on one side of the droves of haters who are, will or, get you or get angry with you from like death wishes or death threats, to the editors on the other side who are like, well, let's just play it safe. I want to sleep with both eyes closed tonight. So I think that's where political cartoonists find themselves in is, how do I still share what I believe to be true and what I love about expressing what I do, and not feeling like you're pandering or feeling like you're threatened on either end. So it's a tough go at it. And that's why I think what you've done, self-syndicating, going out on your own, doing your own thing, is an act of bravery within itself, because you're not playing to either side. You're not succumbing to the fear, and you're not succumbing to the almighty paycheck from the editor. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I mean, I still don't think anybody's going to come after me. I don't believe that. And I think liberals have gotten meaner too in the process. I mean, I don't think liberals are going to threaten you so much. But I see a lot of liberals saying just stuff like, something like violent happening to Donald Trump. They think that's funny sometimes, depending on who it is. But it's way more so on the right. So, and actually, even on my blog and on my comments, when I see people like put it down a death threat or death wish for the opposing side, I would tell them to back off, to reel it back, or something like. I'd do that. We don't have to do that. Here. So this is why I don't join parties. I don't want to be with any group. I don't want to be responsible or held accountable for stupid crap other people do.
No,
so that's
exactly.
why I'm a fierce independent.
No, me too. And I think, honestly, I've heard you say this before, and I is one of the things that I was like, oh, he's on the right page. Is I don't know if you could do this job being an affiliate with Conservative Party, GOP, or being a Democrat. I think that would, I don't want to say like you're giving part of yourself away, but it's like, what's the best idea? What's the best story? What's the best formulation of what's going on in this space without my personal political bias being caught up in all that? And so it is a tough thing, but again, that's what I think what you do so well is you don't let any of that noise, liberal, Democrat, conservative, MAGA, affect what you do day in and day out. And it's great that there are independent thinkers such as yourself out there.
Well, I am fiercely liberal. I am, and I think I'm more liberal than most people. But I don't have a loyalty to like a party or anything like that, to a brand. I like Coca-Cola, but I'm not afraid to drink a Pepsi. So
Yeah.
I just came up with that. But
You should use that. Sell it to Andrew Yang.
maybe
He
so.
mentioned that. Yeah, he
He
mentioned
already
that
bought
once.
it.
He's like, America is being sold Pepsi or Coke when they just want water, and I'm like,
That's
oh yeah, that's exactly it.
a
So
great sellout to you. But I see a lot of people are loyal to that because one of my personal rules. I'm checking my finger now. One of my personal rules is that if I'm going to go after a Republican for something, and then later when a Democrat does it, I need to go after the Democrat for that. It's kind of like how, like, say, all the Republicans were upset about Obama playing golf, and then when Trump came along and played golf, they were defending it. Like they're all after Hunter Biden right now, but you can't get a Republican or one of these MAGA cartoonists. You can't get them to mention Jared Kushner.
yeah,
And to me, it was. I want to eliminate the hypocrisy. Sometimes that challenges you because you tear somebody apart, and then someone you like does something, and you're like, well, it's big news. You need to go after it too.
yeah.
So that was another one of the rules. And I guess because and nobody's paying you to be this loyal. That's the weird. You're a super MAGA conservative dude and totally loyal to any or politician or whatever. I used to have a rule, or it wasn't really a rule. It was just something I tried to do. But like in Mississippi, you meet every politician. It's not a big deal. Ask Marshall Ramsey, Mississippi. If you're a journalist in the state and you brag about meeting the governor, other journalists throughout the state are just like, I
I
guess
had lunch with them yesterday. Yeah,
because Mississippi is like a large, small town. By the time I got to Hawaii, I was tired of it, and I didn't really want to meet politicians. And I would get invites with the rest of the editorial board to go to the governor's office and stuff like that. And his wife came to my office one day whenever I skipped a meeting and said, "Hey, we weren't with us yesterday. Where were you?" And I thought that was just kind of funny. And I tried to avoid them at the Freelance Star, but occasionally you're still dragged up. But the thing is that I didn't want to meet these people because they charm you, even the ones who you don't agree with. Mark Warner was delightful, and he had to we were long lost brothers when I met him, and Tim Kaine was just a super likable guy, and it's like someday I'm gonna have to put this guy, on a stake, but. And the one person I didn't have a problem with was Eric Cantor. When he came in and talked to us, I was like, I don't like this. Don't like him on the news, on TV, and I don't like him in person either. How about that?
no charm factor is going to win
there
me
was
over.
No charm with that guy at all. But I met other Republicans that I liked, just in person and stuff. But I figured, don't be loyal to these people. You can't be afraid of somebody that you support one day and then the next day you criticize them. And that's how it was. Like when back in the 90s and 2000s, like you see a Lukovich cartoon making fun of Bill Clinton. The next day he'd be defending Bill Clinton. And of course the conservatives and liberal cartoonists all did that. Ramirez would make fun of George W. Bush. Well, it probably got less so at that point.
Yeah.
But maybe his dad.
George H.W. Yeah, his dad.
He would poke fun of him every now and then.
Yeah.
But by the time now he takes on Trump. May not be fair to use him as an example. But we were more open to not afraid to criticize anybody. But now it's like we've all picked sides, and you can't. There's no middle between that,
Yeah.
I would say this: I don't think I've ever drawn a cartoon saying something nice about Trump, but I don't feel like I have to. There is nothing nice.
There's nothing nice to say. Yeah, it's hard to defend someone or to find that, this is a redeemable quality. So no, I totally agree, and I think that what you're saying is exactly it. Is how do you keep an objective point of view, whether they shake your hand and, promise you, the old saying, a chicken in every pot, to whatever, politician will say to make you feel loyal or a sense of kinship toward them. But I love that you're not swayed by that. And I think a good political cartoonist worth their salt won't be swayed either way. But you're right. I feel like in this time, in this age, it is choose a side, because if you don't, then there's going to be a bloodbath coming your way one way or another. And I think that's just the climate we're in. And I guess this will kind of lead to my last question then. Because again, this year, this is one of the reasons I started putting this podcast together, as I mentioned earlier in our our conversation was I feel like this year, 2024, is so paramount in the year of politics and through our nation's history. There's been nothing really like it. And we're all pretending like, oh, November, yeah. Uh, but it's coming. And I think all of us deep down have this like, ooh, what is this all really going to mean? So what advice would you give someone who's thinking about maybe becoming a political cartoonist? And again, it's probably not taught in schools. It's not like go get an MBA or, in political or editorial cartooning. It's very much like you see, I make kind of an apprentice almost from how you and I grew up with Mad Magazine and Charles Schultz. What advice would you give someone who is thinking about, oh, maybe this is a space I could get into?
I would advise them, if they're starting off, they're going to have their influences. And I'd say you can have those, but at some point you got to develop your own style. You have to get away from that. Like I've seen a best of book from the early 80s, and a lot of my favorite cartoonists all look like McNeely. And then I got a book from the later 80s, and none of those cartoonists look like McNeely. You can still see the influences, but you got to. And I would also say that you really have to be independent. Write your own ideas. Don't let anybody ever write your ideas for you, ever. Don't let readers do it. Don't let editors do it. Editors are worse at writing cartoon ideas than readers are, and don't let them do it. I mean, they can assign subjects. You can take like a concept or something, or say you haven't heard about something and a reader suggests, hey, why don't you do something about this? That's fine and stuff. Just don't let them write your ideas. Be independent from other cartoonists. Like when that red wave thing failed last year, Republicans didn't get the big win that they wanted. There was like 50 cartoons of the red wave not happening and surfboards and stuff like that. And talking to an amateur, he drew the same thing, and he did it like 2 weeks later. And I said, here's my advice: don't do what's already been done. And a lot of professional cartoonists ignore that. They keep it being done. One of these guys I mentioned earlier, one of the right wing guys, he would draw a cartoon like 5 days after Gary Barville draws it. And I'm like, why do we need you if we already got Gary Barville? And that's just some liberals. If you're just going to follow what somebody else has already done, then we don't need you. Your viewpoint's not needed if it's not your own viewpoint, or if you're just recycling something like that. So that's my advice. Be independent, write your own ideas, think hard. Don't go for that first idea. Sometimes don't go for that second one. Also, maybe being able to draw, that could help too. Be original with your drawing. Don't trace. This is a new thing now, apparently. Stay away from AI. Don't type in your drawing, or how that works. I don't really know. Draw your cartoons. Even if you're not good at drawing. Look, I'm not good at drawing, but I still do it. So find your voice, find your style, be original. Be informed. Read beyond the headline. I see so many cartoons where I know the cartoonist only read the headline and he didn't really understand the story. And I know you might get bored. And if you don't like to read a lot, just read The Week, because their stories are really, really good. But
their tweets,
more than that, though. Yeah, just read.
Yeah. No, I think that's a huge factor. If you've ever been putting pen to paper to come up with an idea, and you don't have a full understanding of it, it's like it falls apart before it even takes off, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm using a punchline, or I'm using a visual gag, and I don't really know what's going on. So it is tough to kill your darlings. But you're right. I love that as a great point for anyone thinking about the business or thinking about getting into this, is be informed. I mean, we have this box called the internet we jump into where we can get all the information we want, and it's all out there. It's just finding the right information and distilling it down is the tricky part these days.
I'd say know your sources too, because we know what Fox News is, but I will turn the channel from, say, like I'm watching something on CNN and they're like, yeah, I don't know about this issue, or we don't know how this is going to play out for Democrats, whatever, I don't know. And then I flip the channel over to MSNBC and they're like, this is great for Democrats, that's awesome, or just stuff like that. And some channels just to watch those dynamics change. So, and it's the same thing with online outlets, print. Just know your sources. Think about what they're coming at you for, or with. I think the most straight up news is the best. One thing is that facts do tend to have a liberal bias. I will say that. And also, here's something to know. I'm just going to say this: that anytime you talk to a Republican, they're lying. Throughout my entire career, especially if they're a MAGA person, throughout like on those tours of the arraignments, I never talked to one pro-Trumper who can't lie while talking about Trump, while defending him. And it goes beyond those lunatics at their arraignments with their flags and the nooses and shit like that. I saw a lot of nooses. It's the people on TV. It's the people in the parties. Is from Mitch McConnell down to the toothless lunatic in the Miami courthouse. They're all lying. Nobody can ever defend Donald Trump without lying. And it's gone beyond Donald Trump to anything conservative or Republican. And this is why I'm a liberal, because facts have a liberal bias. So that's my statement.
That's great. That's great. Well, Clay, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. And where can people find you online?
Claytoonz.com. ClayToonz.com. You can also find me at Go Comics, other various outlets. You know what? If you ever want to find me, just Google my name. I don't even think you had to put cartoon or cartoonist in it. You're just going to find me as some bluegrass player that has my name.
I was going to say the bluegrass guy shows up with your face. So, not to be confused. I
heard once that he hates me because he's a MAGA guy. And people someone write him whatever, or somehow he gets some of my hate mail from people that he agrees with.
His bluegrass gigs are going down right now, so keep it up. That's great. Well, we'll put all your notes and all your links in the show notes. But thanks again, Clay. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much.